So today is December the 15th. It's 5:35 in the evening here on the East Coast, and we're here to talk about debt-free life, which is an extended version of infinite banking. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling, get started, and here we go. So debt-free life. So what is debt-free life? Debt-free life is a proprietary offering from Symmetry Financial Group. It is a infinite banking and infinite banking concept that uses infinite banking plus another financial tool that we call a debt snowball. The words debt-free life is a play on words. The idea is that we want your life to be debt-free. We want you to get debt-free. And we all know that there's one thing that causes more angst and strife in life, marriages, everything like that. And it's associated with being in debt and financial issues. If we can eliminate that, then we're all going to be better off. So that's the goal with the debt-free life program that we have here from Symmetry Financial Group. So there are two primary questions that we ask when we're talking about infinite banking and debt-free life, really more debt-free life. Are you 100% sure that you're going to have enough money for retirement? And if we could show you a way to get out of debt in 9 years or less, would you be interested? So the second question, everybody would always answer yes. Anybody, if you've got a 30-year mortgage, if you can show me how to eliminate that in 9 years, I'm all ears. And then finally, the only people that are going to answer that first question, if they're 100% certain they're going to have a solid retirement, the only people that can accurately answer that question are people that have met with a Symmetry agent and done that correct plan, or a pompous person such as myself who thinks they know all the answers. So in all honesty, nobody's really got it figured out. You don't have any guarantees in life, but you can hedge your bets, especially using programs like these that we here at Symmetry are so fond of. So let's move forward. Right now, the problem that we have in America as far as debt is concerned is that we are overburdened with debt. We are not running our lives or living our lives as Americans the way that the founding fathers of this country intended. We spend too much money on taxes. We spend too much money on interest, taking loans. It's way too easy for us to get into debt. We don't have enough money left over to have a nice, comfortable lifestyle. And finally, we don't save enough money for retirement. Unfortunately, a lot of folks are out there, they're relying on Social Security as their retirement. And if you are following what's going on in the market, following what's going on with inflation, and know what the plans are that are out there right now to help rescue Social Security so that it doesn't go bankrupt in 10 years like it's on track to do, then you understand that taxes are going up. And you also understand that probably the amount of money you're going to be able to derive from your Social Security, your pension, which is your Social Security, is going to be less than what you're intended by, as much as a factor of 25%. So it's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's not working the way that it was supposed to. And yet our government managers, our congressmen and women and people in the Senate and people in our government, they're spending money left and right like it's going out of style. So something's got to change, something's got to stop. But I think if we all take a collective breath and realize that we probably shouldn't rely on the government to do it, and we should do it ourselves. And that's what this whole debt-free life program is about. So if we look at the average American, and this slide is about 4 years old, it is probably still close to accurate. But if we look at the current situation in America, the average American makes about $2 million in their lifetime. And that's a lot of money if you spend it correctly. Unfortunately, most of us don't. We have too many toys. We have the wrong toys. And in the end, we're left with about $60,000 for retirement. And that's not enough, even if we're banking on Social Security to add something to it. If you would think about this, in the latter years, between the ages of 45 and 65, people in this country earn more money in those 20 years than they do in the first 45 years of their life. And I would say it's probably even more true in between the ages of 50 and 65. And if you're accustomed to having that kind of income, and then all of a sudden you have to cut it back, but you've only saved 3% of your income, your lifestyle is going to have a significant change. And unfortunately, you're probably going to end up being back in college, eating tuna fish and ramen for dinner every night. And it's an unfortunate situation. And it doesn't need to be that way. So this is what we do here at Symmetry. We fix this. How do we fix it? We change that main piece of pie there that you've got that's 3%. we change it so that you can actually save significantly more than that. We don't do what the normal debt counselors and credit counselors are going to tell you out there. We're not going to tell you to go out and get a second job. We're not going to tell you to work harder, work longer, save more, consolidate your debt. We're not going to tell you to take all those little tiny debts and put it in one big pile, which is actually going to make it more difficult for you to pay everything off. That's not what we're doing. We're not going to tell you to go refinance all your debt. That's just changing debt from one debtor to another, from one creditor to another. It doesn't work. The only one of those things that consistently works, and one that we use, is that debt snowball. And we'll get more into that in just a minute. But the idea is that we want to move you from the left side of your screen to the right side of your screen with a focus on your savings. We want to change it so that you're not saving just 3% of your income, but 15%. If you do the math, that's actually a 500% increase in retirement. So even if Social Security goes south, like everybody thinks it's going to go, you're still going to be fine if you follow one of these programs. If we can eliminate the amount you pay in taxes from 40% of every dollar that 40 cents of every dollar you make right now is spent on taxes. If we can change that argument, change that discussion, and make it so you're only spending 30%. It sounds like only a 10% reduction, but it's not. It's actually a 25% reduction in the amount of money you're spending. And if we can do the same thing with the amount of interest you're paying over time, simply by paying things off early, then you're going to be better off. That's going to give you more time and more capacity to save money. Finally, we know that when we structure these programs, if I have to change your spending habits, if I have to put you in a situation where you're spending less money now, or when the program goes live, than when you're spending right now, you are not likely to complete the program. And so none of us here want to set you up for failure, and that's definitely setting you up for failure. So what we want to do is we actually want to increase your cash flow, and we can do that. And that's there's about 85% of the people that I talk to are eligible for these programs. We can make something work. 15% of the people that aren't eligible, their problem is really that they've put themselves into such a debt issue that probably their best course of action would be to contact an attorney and maybe look at a Chapter 13 or something along those lines. Anyway, let's move on. So what we do is you see those bullet points on your screen. I don't need to read them, but we change the way you spend money. So right now, when you spend money, you spend it inefficiently. What we're going to do is we're going to put you in a situation where you can make your money work for you for the rest of your life, as opposed to you working for money for the rest of your life. And we're gonna get into this a little bit later, but that last bullet is one of my favorites here. Allow you to retire with a tax-favored income. Let's give you a little preview. This is the most favorable of all types of tax-favored income, which I would say is a tax-exempt income. So moving on. So there are a number of programs that are out there. You can do some research, look up infinite banking concepts. All those, there's tons of them out there. There's about 5 key ways that an infinite bank is created, and 4 of them will routinely fail because they don't do this one thing that you see on your screen right now, which is plan for the unexpected. What's the unexpected? Your brother-in-law loses their job. Their family's going to lose their house. You have to dip into your savings to give them enough money to keep the house afloat. That's an emergency use. That's an unexpected event. That's a reason why you'd want to tap the emergency fund that we have embedded in this program. I want to go to Tahiti. That's not an appropriate emergency use. That's not the unexpected, and that's absolutely not something we should do to tap the emergency fund here. So this requires some discipline and some common sense. But the idea here is that we know that things happen, life happens, and we know that there's going to be, unfortunately, a potential that you may need to get access to more money than you see on a regular basis. That's the emergency fund that we build into these programs for our clients. All right, let's go forward. This is, don't make any mistake. This is a financial tool. This is an investment strategy. We use different types of programs: home equity line of credit, index universal life, whole life, participating whole life, sweeps programs. We use all kinds of different tools to create an infinite bank, private bank, or in this case, a debt-free life bank. But in the end, there's one, when we look at this from an investment perspective, that is superior to the others. And that is actually our tax-free investment program called the Debt-Free Life Program. And the reason why it's superior is because it's tax-free. If you simply take a look at taking a same amount of investment, say $10,000, and you put it into a taxed solution, like putting money in a savings account, right? You're paying tax on the money before you use it, before you put it in your retirement program, but the growth is very, very slow. If you take it into another level, let's say you put it in a 401k or a 403 or any other IRA type programs, you're deferring the taxes. You're going to have growth. You'll have higher potential growth than what you're going to get in a savings account. But in the end, you're growing your tax exposure at the same rate that you're growing your wealth. And if you think that taxes are going up, then hopefully you realize that means that the taxes associated with the tax brackets are going up as well. And while your financial advisor or your water cooler financial planner that you spoke to at your job may be telling you, hey, look, just put money in your 401k. That may be the advice that they gave you, because then they'll say, because you'll be at a lower tax bracket later when you take it out. And that may be actually the case, that your tax bracket is lower, but it doesn't mean your taxes are going to be less. Taxes are going up. That means the taxes within those tax brackets are going up as well. So that's unfortunately, if you talk to friends of yours, and I've got lots of people that are in this boat right now that took out 401ks and 403s and TSPs and FERS and KIOs and SEPs and all those other things. They took them out with the understanding that they would be able to take money later in life at a lesser interest rate, a lesser tax rate than they were taking it while they were earning it. And unfortunately, that's not the case. It's not going to be the case in many cases. So finally, if you look at the big column, the tax-free column, the reason why this program is tax-free is due to the nature of how we access the cash. This harkens back to a couple of IRS tax codes that we'll talk about a little bit later, but mainly and particularly IRS tax code 7702A, which says all money derived from life insurance is tax exempt. And it says money from a loan is tax exempt. So you can think about that for a second. When you bought your house and you borrowed $300,000 to buy your house, you did not have to pay income tax on the $300,000 that you borrowed, right? That's what this is about. All right, let's go on. This is a financial tool. It's a financial instrument. Actually, I call it a financial Swiss Army knife because you can do anything with it. It's an incredibly powerful tool. But like all financial instruments, it works in phases: maximization, accumulation, distribution. The maximization phase, that's when we're trying to get the amount of money you're putting into this program, which is ultimately going to become a retirement program for you. We're trying to get that to the highest and best number as quickly as possible. That means we're going to eliminate your debt, whatever the debt is, as quickly as possible. And rest assured, I've done the math and it is a bear. If you've got just 5 debts, there's 25 different orders that you could make to pay those 5 debts off. 25 different, I'm going to pay debt 1, 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. Or I'm going to pay debt 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 1. There's 25 different combinations, and it takes a long time to do that math. Luckily, here at Symmetry, we've invested in and developed some software that allows us to determine that quickly. And this is something that having done just one of those potential combinations on a 6-debt debt, took me 6 hours to do the math with a spreadsheet. So I don't advise doing it. Anyway, the goal here is maximization. We want to get you to the point where you're saving the most amount of money and taking advantage of that thing I talked about just a minute ago called a debt snowball. Second, once we beat your debt, once we get rid of it, and you've got the maximum amount of money that you've got funding into your program, then you have changed phases. You are now in the accumulation phase of the program. And the goal here is going to be to continue growing the wealth as fast as you can until you decide that you're done. And then when you're done, you've entered the distribution phase. And that's when it is appropriate to take that emergency trip to Tahiti or to buy your wife a pair of sapphire gold earrings just because you want to, right? All right, let's move on. So this is not new. These programs have been around for well over 100 years. Walt Disney used it to fund Disney World. George Christopher used it to fund Pampered Chef. Ray Kroc used it to fund the first 11 McDonald's units. Warren Buffett does it to this day. J.C. Penney used to use it to satisfy his payroll requirements in the off season, so he had enough money. This is kind of like construction guys that are out there that in the wintertime they don't have any work. They just save money in the summer, or maybe they take out a home equity line of credit so they can pay themselves and their staff in the winter. This is the same kind of thing. It's just another use of the money in the program. So this is not new. It's been around for a long time. It is true and tested. And the wealthiest segment of our population have been doing this forever, right? Let's keep going. So this is some of the stuff we've already talked about. We're going to redirect it. That's the most important thing here. You are taught from a very early age how to spend money. You are taught from a very early age how to get into debt. You're 18 years old, you get your first credit card, buy your first car. Go to college, get a student loan. Get out of college, making more money, get married, borrow money for a wedding. Get done with the wedding, buy a house. Get a house, get a child, paying for private school. All these things keep rolling. You make more money, but you get into more debt. And that's one of the key things we do here is we look at where you're spending your money, how you're spending your money, and how we can repurpose that money to make your life significantly easier and to make your wealth and finally your retirement significantly more comfortable. Excuse me. So this is, again, an old slide. These are some of the first folks we worked with back in 2019. The amount of money that we're seeing these days that we're eliminating with these programs is significantly greater than what you see on this page. I am routinely seeing $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 of debt eliminated for our clients. And when I say eliminated for our clients, I don't mean in 20 or 30 years. I mean, if I've got 30 years of scheduled debt, we're going to eliminate it. Worst case scenario, 15 years. More realistically, probably 7 years. That's the power of this program. That's the power of compounding interest, the power of a debt snowball, and really the power of the software we use to determine the best order to pay off these debts. Let's see. So to understand how this program works, the first thing we have to do is understand how you spend money. So here's an example of how you spend money. You make money however you make it, whether you're a 1099, W-2, W-4 employee, and you deposit that money into your checking account. Doesn't matter who you bank with, they all do the same thing. The bank practices positive arbitrage with your money every night. They borrow money from you at a very low interest rate, 0%. They lend it out at the federal funds rate or higher. They make an average of 61 cents with every dollar that you put into your checking account, and they don't give you any of that money back. So what are they doing? They're making money with your money over and over and over again. At some point, usually the average dollars in your checking account 7 days before you use it, at some point you tell your bank to go ahead and pay your creditor. And your bank says, okay, and your creditor sent an amount of money, and then your money became the creditor's money. And in that example, did you make anything with your money? You didn't. The only entity that made any money with your money is your bank. And the bank is so nice to you, they'll say something along the lines of, hey, you kept at least $2,500 in your account with us. Thank you very much. Because you kept so much money in your account with us that allowed us to use that money over and over and over again, and we didn't pay you any of it, we're not going to charge you to keep your money in our bank. And that's really what all of them say. And it's time to pay the piper. So that's the new method. That's what we do. This is what we do. This is how you will spend money in a more efficient manner using the debt-free life method. Nothing really changes. You still make money, still gets deposited as income, still goes into your checking account. Here's where the rubber meets the road in this system. We are going to take some money, and that's up to you, out of your checking account because you are going to pay your life insurance premium. Remember, at its end, the one that we're using primarily, the one we're talking about today, this is a life insurance policy. but it's a specific kind of life insurance policy. It's a whole life insurance policy. Why whole life? Okay, so there's other versions of these that are out there that use indexed universal life. I like IULs, but they are not appropriate for people that are over probably 45 or 50 years old to do this program, simply because that word the indexed, that is linked to the stock market. So the performance of that program is linked to the market. And where we are right now, you don't want to be invested in anything that's linked to the market. Okay, so we use whole life because it's a safe bet. Okay, what is a safe bet? I mean, you're going to get a guaranteed 3, 4, 5% interest, depending on which company you do this with. So we are buying a single policy, one policy. It is a participating whole life policy. That word participating is really important. Why? Because that word participating means that the carrier is going to allow us to participate with the profit. Remember, it's one policy, but you just saw two other things appear, term life and paid up additions. Those are riders. The term life rider increases the death benefit. The paid up additions is cash growth. That's what those two things mean. So we have a whole life policy with two riders, right? Three parts total. If you're using a standard distribution model when we set these up, it's about 21% of your premium is paying for your whole life. About 11% of your premium is paying for that term rider. And about 68% is used to pay your paid up additions, which is the cash growth side of this. Remember, participating whole life, right? So I've got a program that's structured to have cash growth, which is that paid up additions, where the majority of the money that I'm spending is going to cash growth. And then I've got this company that says, hey, thank you for allowing us to use your money. Kind of like your bank, right? Your current bank, Wells Fargo, whoever. Thank you for allowing us to use your money. Because you're allowing us to use your money, we're going to pay you a guaranteed growth rate. So the difference right now between a commercial bank that you bank with versus an infinite bank that you own is this one's going to give you nothing. Your commercial bank, your regular retail bank, this bank's going to pay you a guaranteed interest rate that's never going to drop below that guarantee. If the company is the right kind of company and it's a mutual company, it's also going to pay a dividend. Okay, so you've got your growth coming from three places. You've got it coming from every time you make a premium payment, the majority of your premium payment is going to cash growth. You've got a guaranteed interest rate coming in from the carrier, which is being compounded either monthly or annually, depending on the carrier you use. And then you've got a dividend that's being compounded annually. So those three things cause your money in your private bank to grow. And then what we've done, if you remember that last slide where the bank was making money every night with our money, yep. Well, now we're doing it. We have our money in our private bank, our infinite bank, or in this case, our debt-free life bank. All right. So how do I operate the program? How do I use money? One of the tenets of the program is you will never, ever use your money. All right. So if you want to understand what I'm talking about, read Robert Kiyosaki, talks about this stuff all the time. And he says, people that don't understand finances get into debt. People who understand finances use debt. Okay. So that's what this is. We are using debt. We are taking a loan against the cash value of our program. So I've been paying my money, let's say it's $100 a month. So I'm earning $68 a month that's going into my cash growth bucket. And I've got it up to $680, and I've got a car that I need to pay off that owes $600. I want to take a loan for $600. I'm going to take a loan from against the cash value of my program. That carrier loan is going to get deposited back into my checking account. My bank is going to start doing this with their hands because they see the money in there, and then it's immediately going to go out and pay my debt. So the bank doesn't get to make any money with my money, and I'm not real upset about that. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to tell the bank, hey, don't just use that money. I want you to spend it. I want you to pay my debt. And then that money becomes their money. Their money is your creditor. So in this example, in the previous example, my money became their money. In this example, the carrier's money became their money. And if you do the math, I have $600 in my private bank. I have a car that I need to pay $600 off on. I take a loan for $600 and I pay off that car. So now I have $600 equity in my bank. What's my growth? I still have $600 cash here. It's still earning interest and a dividend for me for the rest of my life. Eventually, it's going to pay off that loan. And I've got the equity in the vehicle now. I just doubled my wealth, my net wealth. Okay. So this is part of this whole process. This is, in some cases, we do duplication strategies where we put money in one program, let it grow, and then put it into another program, let it grow, and so on. In some cases, we're just simply duplicating money within our own program with the understanding that through a process called dollar cycling, where we're taking money, borrowing it, eliminating a debt, and then while we're doing all this, the normal growth, the normal guaranteed interest rate plus the dividend is replenishing that money. And the money that I'm using to pay my premiums is replenishing that money. And then I'm doing it again. And I'm doing it again. And I'm doing it again. It's just cycling through the dollars. So this is the difference, the key difference between how people are taught how to spend money, and this is how you spend money inefficiently. And then how we do it now using a debt-free life method. This is how we spend money efficiently. All right. So how does this work? How does it look like on a real illustration? So let's see this. Does it say debt-free life bank on your screen, folks? Anybody give me a thumbs up or a yes?
It says family example.
Family expense. Gotcha. Thank you. There you go. So this is what it looks like when we're actually running the numbers and doing an illustration. This is a family that I met with about 2 months ago now for their annual review. This is one of the first families I ever worked with on this program back in 2019. This was their debt load. They owed a lot of money. They owed $584,000. And if you looked at and computed the amount of interest they were scheduled to pay, their true debt, which we'll see in just a second and with glaring clarity, is significantly higher than that. And there it is. Their true debt was $767, had $182,000 of scheduled interest. So with this program, a couple of key things: not spending any more money than they were spending previously, because they were trying to pay off debt. They were paying an extra $500 here, an extra $200 there. They were trying to pay off the debt. Okay. But it wasn't really getting them anywhere. Here's what we did for them: 7.8 years. So they are now 3 years into the program. So they got 4.8 years left. So where are we right now? Just so we're on the same page. We've paid off every single one of their debts, including this horrid student loans. Student loans are evil. Okay. The only thing they have left are 2 properties. So where they were going to be is over a period of 30 years, they're going to be paying off all that debt. And they would have had equity in 2 houses. That was their retirement, the equity in the 2 houses plus Social Security. Where they are now, they're going to pay all their debt off in 7.8 years. They'll have equity in 2 houses. And then, oh, by the way, the cash growth on this is phenomenal, right? Einstein said it. There's nothing more powerful than the effect of compounded interest. Boom. The compounded interest effect for this family is $4.8 million. This is without them spending any more money than they were spending before. This is putting them on the same debt elimination track they were on before, but making it be an efficient debt elimination track so that they can spend the money, practice dollar cycling, reuse the same dollars over and over and over again. And then me, when I first saw one of these, how the hell can you do that? I'm not making any more money. I'm not spending any more money. Where's all this money coming from? I'm borrowing it from the carrier. I'm cycling through the dollars. The carrier is helping me pay the loan that I took from them off, and then I'm borrowing from the carrier again. And I'm doing it over and over and over again. And I'm practicing a debt snowball. Debt snowball, I've got 20 debts. Whichever one is the easiest one and the most efficient one to pay off, I'm paying that off first. And then the money that I was spending to support the debt service on that debt is now going to help me pay off the next debt even faster. That's the debt snowball. Let's do one more screen. Each one of these yellow bars that you see is a year in which this person paid off debt. The individual that I did this program on was 36 years old. He was a truck driver. He actually has since incorporated this as a business debt-free life program for himself. And he actually just bought his second rig. Previously, his business model was to buy one new rig every 4 years. Now he has two. His goal was to get to a fleet of 10. It was going to take him 30 years to get to a fleet of 10 rigs in his previous model. In this model, he'll have a fleet of 10 rigs in about 6 years. Okay. Plus the fact that he's going to be debt free. Plus the fact, look down here, folks. He told me he wanted to retire at age 75, right? Age 75, he's no longer making payments in the program. Age 76, annual premium is 0. Well, at age 55, 20 years earlier, he'll have $1.5 million cash in the program, liquid. So can he retire with $1.5 million cash in the program? Absolutely. If he wants to. Doesn't have to. But the point is, this gives people options, right? So I said earlier on, this is a Swiss Army knife financial tool. You can use it for anything you want. You want to use it for debt elimination? Great. You want to use it for cash growth? Great. You want to use it for wealth generation? Great. You want to use it for legacy creation? Great. It does it all. And the cool thing is, it actually does it all at the same time. You don't have to choose one or the other. Okay. So that's kind of the end of that presentation. There's another example that I use sometimes, which is it talks about a person without a mortgage. So you definitely can do these for folks without mortgages. It doesn't matter, but they can be done with or without debt. If it's without debt, then it's called simply an infinite bank. If it's with debt, then it's called a debt-free life bank. They are one and the same thing. All debt-free life banks are infinite banks. All infinite banks are not debt-free life banks, however. Okay. And they have different functionality, and that's part of the experts that we have here on the screen. I'm looking at one of them right now. His name is Tom Deutsch. Hello, Tom. Nice to see you, sir. Thanks for coming. And so what we're going to do now is take just a minute to see if anybody has any questions before I introduce our guest. But of course, everybody got all that stuff, and nobody has a question. And Adrian DeJarmo is so interested, he's yawning. Thank you, brother.
Hey, Scott, I have a question for you.
Mr. Helm.
In regard to the infinite banking concept, it's the same concept. I understand the concept. I like the DFL program. I have written a bunch. Haven't done an infinite banking. And I'm guessing.
Yes, you have.
Well, I did. Thank you. But if it was just pure infinite banking, would you just come up with an amount that they want to kind of pay into it as a premium arbitrarily? Okay.
So it depends on what the client wants to do. So if, like, I ran into a client, an infinite banking strategy for a client about 2 months ago. He makes good money. He has a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. His idea was that he wanted to be able to pay cash for their college, and he wants them to go to an Ivy League school. So we simply reverse engineered the number, the amount of money they were going to need to have in their bank when the 6-year-old turns 18, and the amount of money they were going to need to have left over in the bank, so that when the 3-year-old turns 18, 3 years later, that there would be a total of about $600,000. And so we just reverse engineered the number. And so for that infinite bank concept, it is based on the client's goal of funding college. Okay. And that's because they wanted to fund it by paying the entire college amount off. There's another strategy, does the same thing. You don't have to fund the whole amount of college. You just need to be able to fund what the premium payments for the student loan would be. And one more thing, really, I'm sure Brian's going to talk about this in just a minute, but one more thing that's really, really cool about that, this is life insurance, folks. This is not an asset class you have to report when you're doing a FAFSA form. Okay. So you can significantly reduce someone's reported ability to pay by putting, you got $200,000 in your checking account. Guess what? You're not getting a Pell Grant. Take that $200,000 and put it into a debt-free life or an infinite bank. Okay, it's not an asset anymore. Now you're getting a Pell Grant. Okay. Thanks for the question, Rick. All right. So Mike, to everyone, there was a question about mortgages. If someone is under the age of 69 years old, there's no downside to having one of these banks. No downside. So if you've got any debt, even if it's a mortgage debt, then you should be looking at leveraging the amount that you owe in a mortgage, because that's what we're doing. We're capturing in a debt-free life bank, we're capturing about 60% of whatever your debt is. So if you owe a total of $200,000 and you execute a debt-free life infinite bank, then we're going to see you capture as cash about $120,000 of 60% of whatever your debt load is. Okay. And one other common misconception, you can't do this if you only have a mortgage. No, you can. Absolutely, you can. It's going to take a little bit longer because you don't have the effect of a debt snowball compounding the effect of an infinite bank. All right.
Right, but Scott, you can touch on for Mike the fact, I don't believe you touched on it yet, the mortgage chunking and how fast that can help pay down the mortgage so that they can get to the accumulation and realization growth phase.
Thank you, Donna Forehand. So yes, there's a process called mortgage chunking, whereby you're using your infinite bank to create large chunks of money, 5,000, 10,000, whatever the unit size is, and you're taking that out as a loan routinely, and you're throwing it at your mortgage company, and you're saying to them when you throw it, take that, and they are being hit in the face with $5,000 of money that they have to apply towards principal, which completely destroys the amortization schedule. And we don't care because we're not in this for the banks. We're in this for ourselves. So if you can eliminate or significantly impact the amortization schedule, meaning that every single payment you make after that is skewed slightly more towards paying the principal than it was interest, like the previous one, then you're going to be better off. So with executing a mortgage chunking strategy will decrease the length of time by about 16% between the penultimate debt and the mortgage, if the mortgage is the last debt. So if it's 100 months difference between you pay off the second to last debt and the mortgage, then that 100 months will be reduced by 16 months. So that's 1.25 years faster. So mortgage chunking is a great tool. All right. So it looks like Tracy's answering the question. Thanks, Tracy, for jumping in.